Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you don't already know me or you haven't already been here before, my name's Brett Searle. I'm a magician and entertainer. And this channel just allows me to share some of the things that I've seen at weddings to help you with your wedding planning and lots of wedding ideas. So in my last video I chatted about all the great ideas that I've seen at weddings, and of course we don't always learn from things working well, we also learn from things that don't work so well. So in this video I'm going to talk about some of the bad things that really don't work at weddings. So this video might be slightly more controversial than my last video where I listed the top things which are unique and work really well at weddings. Some of these things I'm going to mention, they have been at weddings where I've seen them and I've thought maybe that wasn't the best idea, but it still worked at the wedding, if you see what I mean. It's just my opinion of things that you could have at your wedding, but you might need to put more thought about whether you're going to do it or whether it's a good idea to do that. I'll also give a few honourable mentions. The top 4 are in no particular order, but the top one is my most important tip. So stick around to the end and we'll get discussing the number 1 most important thing that I think you should really avoid at your wedding. So at number 5 in my list is having a TP style wedding on a really hot day, or even a bad marquee on a hot day. And I know these venues are really great and they look great and they're really contemporary and they're getting really popular at the moment, but on the hottest day of the year, on the sunniest day of the year, inside those teepees they can be unbearable. And I've been to a couple of weddings and I've been to another event where it was so sunny, you've got this sort of brown teepee with a lot of canvas area pointing towards the sun, and it just got too hot in there. They literally just had the bar in there and that's all they could have in there. It was just bearable enough to get to the bar, order your drink and come outside again. If you are thinking about having a TP wedding or something like that in the middle of summer, hottest time of summer, make sure you've got other contingencies. Maybe if you've got your venue which has got an indoor area and then you use a TP in the evening or something like that, work around it in that way, because I've seen it where you can't survive in those TPs in the hottest day of the summer. So number 4 is favours, and I know this might be slightly controversial because some people, they like favours, they like the idea of giving something back to the guests, but from a guest point of view, and particularly the older generation, we might not be really even thinking about those things. It's something that doesn't even figure in our sort of perception of what we're going for the wedding for. It's just one of those things that we're not expecting, we don't notice, and also favours sometimes get left behind by a lot of the guests. It's just one of those things which I think if you're maybe spending £3 or £4 per favour and you've got 100 guests, there's £400 there which could be spent on something much more noticeable and something that's going to have a bigger impact on your wedding day. So I know some people like favours, but personally I think, yeah, it's one of those things. It's up to you. You can make it work, you might not be able to make it work. Guests don't notice it. You decide. Number 3 on the list is using a friend as your wedding photographer. So instead of hiring a professional wedding photographer, you have a friend who's got a great camera and they can take some great photos, and you want them to be your wedding photographer, maybe just to save a little bit on your budget. Well, the problem with this is that wedding photographers, they're professionals for a reason, and that is because they know the trade so well. There's so many different aspects to it. Not only do you have to know your camera, you have to know depth of field, you have to know the shutter speed to make sure your photos aren't blurry, you have to be aware of the venue, what's happening during the day, you have to be thinking on your feet all the time. And then after that there's editing the photos, and a professional photographer, you're actually also paying for the time they're editing and not just taking the pictures. So there's so much to think about. It's something that is really important part of your day, having the memories to take them away and have them looking absolutely fantastic. I think it's too much of a risk to ask one of your friends to say, can you take the photos for us? And also your friend, they might want to have a few drinks during the day, so after a few drinks then the photos might not be quite as good as somebody that's focused on doing their job throughout the day and staying sober. So I think it's one of those things that you really should focus on, making sure that you put your budget towards something that you're going to take away from your day. It's one of the few things that you will be left with after your day, and it's one of those things that you should make sure that you get right. Keep your friends as your friends and professionals as professionals. Let's get on to number 2 on the list, and that is booking the wrong things at the wrong times of the day. And of course, a wedding or on any event, they've got a structure, and they've got a structure of how things fit in the day. If you're putting the wrong things in the wrong times, then you're just going to waste your money. And I do have first-hand experience of this. Years ago when I started working at weddings, someone asked me to work during the lull time of the day, where people have just finished their meal and things go a bit quiet, and then you've got the evening entertainment. And the reason why I think this is the wrong time to have a magician, I'm ice-breaking entertainment. I'm entertainment there for the beginning part of the day, and then to carry the atmosphere through around the tables. Having me at the wrong time, what I found was that everybody just wanted to either relax, and if they didn't want to relax, they'd gone up to their rooms to check in, and I was left there with just the bride and groom and a few guests, and that was it really. I was standing there pretty much on my own for most of that hour until the evening entertainment started. So it's the wrong time, a complete waste of money. Also, I've experienced it where the couple had booked a bouncy castle, and I remember as I was leaving around about 5 o'clock, the people from the bouncy castle wanted to take their equipment away, and the bride was having this argument that it hadn't been used, and that was because she'd booked it at the wrong time of the day. Nobody wants to arrive during drink reception, really hot day, and go on a bouncy castle. You know, they wanted to stay looking smart instead of getting on a bouncy castle. It didn't work. It was the wrong time of day. It's a really unfortunate thing. So think about how the day is structured, how everything fits in today. Listen to your suppliers and what they recommend. And then everything will fit together perfectly, and you're not falling into this mistake of wrong things at the wrong time of the day. So before we get on to my final number 1 thing that I think really doesn't work at weddings and you should avoid, let's have a look at some honourable mentions or dishonourable mentions. And the first one is having a free bar with too much alcohol. If you've got guests which like drinking and you know might be slightly rowdy, and having too much alcohol, sometimes that's not a good option for a wedding. It's okay for people to enjoy themselves, but if you give them too much alcohol, things invariably don't go well. Particularly if you give them too much alcohol at the beginning of the day. The amount of parties that I've been to where everybody seems on such a great atmosphere, everybody on such a buzz, it starts off working so well, but then you hit the peak too early, and then you notice that the atmosphere just drops because people had too much too early. So too much alcohol doesn't always work. Another thing that's coming sometimes popular at weddings, cake smashes, where you cut the cake and you put it in each other's faces. That can go wrong. Yeah, it's something, it's not that common, but yeah, I have known it to go wrong. And also another dishonourable mention is copying ideas. Instead of being creative with ideas, trying to just copy things from other weddings, other events, and sticking them straight into your wedding. Sometimes they're not going to fit, or if you, like I said, if you've put them in the wrong times, wrong places, then it might not work for you. It's one of those things that you've got to make sure you're expressing what you feel about your wedding day, and that way it will fit in perfectly, instead of just going, I'm going to have that and put it straight into my event. So avoid that as well. So I hope that's given you a few ideas of things which I feel that don't work at weddings, but let's get on to my number 1 thing that I've experienced at weddings that really doesn't work and isn't going to help you, and that is choosing the wrong suppliers or choosing bad suppliers. So when you're looking for your suppliers, always look at recommendations, look at genuine recommendations. Go to their websites, don't use directories online that will pull up random suppliers that you don't know them from Adam, you don't know if they are professional. Always make sure you get them recommendation, meet your suppliers, have a chat to them, get to know them, let them get to know you, and make sure they are interested in investing in you. There's so many suppliers out there, and there's lots of suppliers out there at different prices. If something's important to you, unfortunately you've got to invest in it. You've got to invest both your time in researching to get good suppliers, and you're probably going to have to invest in financially as well, because if you want something done well and if you want a real good professional, they're not going to be cheap, I'm afraid. It's just one of those things. You do get what you pay for. And I have experienced this firsthand. I've seen DJs that can't hold people on the dance floor because they don't know the audience well enough, or they haven't got the experience to understand what the audience wants, and they just haven't been able to pull it together. I've also seen this with entertainers as well, unfortunately, that the wrong entertainment in wrong place more than experience, I think. And yeah, it just hasn't worked. Instead of a good supplier will have the experience to change things around and change what they do to fit the audience or the guest or the situation or the event, and that's what makes the difference as well. Somebody who's going to be professional enough to think about what they're doing, know that it's their main income and their reputation, and their next job also depends on it as well because of the feedback that you're going to give. So I know it's a slightly difficult one, it's a difficult one to describe, but it's an easy one to avoid. So hopefully that video has been useful for you. If it has, please give it a like. I'd love to hear some comments below if you've got any questions, because it's a difficult video to talk about of things that don't work rather than things that do work. So put them in the comments below. If you do want to hear about more things that work really well, then I've got last week's video which I put out about great ideas for weddings. So have a look at that, check that out. Also, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you very, very soon for another video. Thank you very much, and goodbye.